What is that thing you call a wife doing here?
Dad, please, we're here to support your campaign.
Don't you dare call me Dad! I warned you, the day you married that woman, you stopped being my son!
Choose your political future or that woman.
I choose my wife. You'll never carry my family name. You'll never belong in my house. And as long as I breathe, you'll never stand beside my son again.
Then you'll have to disown me, because I'll never leave my wife.
Throw them both out! You will do no such thing. And who exactly invited you?
The same man who made you minister.
People think the hardest part of being hated is hearing the insults. They're wrong. The hardest part is watching the person you love get punished, simply for loving you. For 16 years, I carried a question that never stopped haunting me. If I had been born into a different family, if my skin had been a different color, would we have had our happy ending the first time? The man I loved never betrayed me. He never stopped loving me. Someone else decided our love didn't deserve to survive. They stole our future. They stole his dream. They stole years we'll never get back. And even after all that, the day we stood together to support his father, I still believed love could heal a broken family. I was wrong, because before hundreds of strangers, the man who called himself my father-in-law looked at me and asked the question that changed every one of our lives. What is that thing you call a wife doing here? In that moment, I realized he wasn't trying to humiliate me. He was about to destroy everything he had spent his entire life building. Naomi Hartwell was 38 the night a United States minister called her a thing in front of the entire country. And she didn't flinch. She'd been waiting 16 years for that man to finally say out loud what he'd whispered behind closed doors since she was a teenager. That's what people always get wrong about him, Naomi later said. They thought he was cruel because he was angry. He wasn't. He was cruel because he was afraid. And I was the only person in that crowd who knew exactly what he was afraid of. You want the truth? I felt sorry for him in that moment. Not because he humiliated me. I'd survived worse from him when I was 17 and had no one. I felt sorry for him because he had no idea. He looked at me like I was nothing, and standing 40 feet behind him was the one man alive who could take everything from him with a single phone call. He just didn't know that man was mine. So keep 3 questions in mind. First, what did Ambrose Callahan do 16 years ago that was so unforgivable his own son would rather be disowned on national television than forgive him? Second, who was the old man stepping out of those SUVs, and how could a stranger claim he made a minister? And third, why did Naomi, a woman with every reason to scream, stay silent for 16 years? Before we go deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Because what looked like the ruin of one black woman that night was actually the last mistake a powerful man would ever make. 16 years earlier, at Ashcombe Preparatory Academy in Virginia, 2 teenagers met who were never supposed to matter to each other. You know what the worst part was? Naomi remembered. Everyone looked at Weston and saw a prince, the son of the most powerful family in the state. I looked at him and saw the loneliest boy I'd ever met, and I was a scholarship girl who fought for every inch of my seat. We were both outsiders. We just wore it differently. They met in the chemistry lab when a boy named Preston knocked Naomi's project off the bench and laughed. Careful, Preston sneered. They only let people like you in here to clean up. The room went quiet. Naomi didn't cry. She picked up her ruined project and looked Preston dead in the eye. When they announced valedictorian in June, remember you said that to my face? And from 3 tables away, Weston Callahan laughed for the first time in a year. I didn't fall for her because she was beautiful, he said. I fell for her because she wasn't afraid, and I'd been afraid my whole life. He found her at lunch the next day. That thing you said to Preston, That was the coldest sentence I've ever heard. He deserved colder. Can I sit? Naomi looked at him a long moment. Your father's the Callahan, the politician. That's not my name, Weston said quietly. That's his. She let him sit. And that was the beginning of everything. For weeks they were only two smart kids who studied together. Then came the lake, a school trip. Weston went too far out on the dock. The wood gave way, and he went under. He couldn't swim. 40 students stood frozen on the shore and watched a boy sink. Except one. Naomi dove into freezing water, dragged him back while he pulled her under twice, and when they hit the sand, he wasn't breathing. She put her hands on his chest. Come on, she begged, pushing down again and again. You don't get to leave. Not like this. Breathe. Breathe. He coughed up half the lake and opened his eyes to find her face inches from his. You, she whispered, are the most reckless person I have ever met. You jumped in for me. Somebody had to. Everyone else just watched. Well, Naomi said, catching her breath, I'm not everyone else. He never forgot that sentence as long as he lived. From that day, they were inseparable. It didn't happen all at once, Naomi said. It happened in small moments. The library was the first one. They were supposed to be studying biology. Instead, they argued about it. You're wrong, Naomi said, tapping her pen against the textbook. The heart isn't the strongest muscle. It's the jaw. That's not romantic at all, Weston said. I'm not trying to be romantic. I'm trying to be right. You're always trying to be right. And I usually am. A small smile fought its way onto her face. You should try it sometime. I'd rather just watch you do it. She went quiet at that. For the first time since he'd met her, Naomi Hartwell didn't have a comeback ready. It happened on the bus back from a debate meet, when a group of boys in the back started laughing loud enough for her to hear. You want me to say something? Weston asked under his breath. No. They're talking about you. They're always talking about me, Weston. She kept her eyes forward, her voice even. If I stopped every time somebody had something to say about a scholarship girl with my skin, I'd never make it to June. Let them talk. I'm still going to be the one holding the diploma. He stared at her a long moment. What? She said. Nothing, Weston said. You're just the bravest person I've ever met, and you don't even know it. I know it, she said. I just don't have the luxury of celebrating it. That was the sentence that made him fall the rest of the way. He would remember it 16 years later, word for word. They wanted the same impossible thing. Both of them wanted to be doctors. We'll open our own hospital one day, Weston told her one night, both of them lying on the football field looking up at the stars. A real one, the kind that treats people nobody else will treat. You're a politician's son, Naomi teased. You're supposed to want a Senate seat. I don't want his life, Weston said, and for once there was steel in his voice. I want this life. I want yours. I want us. Promise me something, she said. Whatever happens, whoever tries to stop us, we don't forget each other. I could never forget you, he said. You brought me back to life, literally. I'm serious, Weston. She sat up and looked at him, and something in her voice had gone careful. People like your father don't let people like me stay. You know that. You've always known that. My father doesn't decide who I love. He decides everything, Naomi said quietly. That's what people with his kind of power do. They decide, and then they make it feel like it was always going to happen that way. Not this time, Weston said. He took her hand. I promise you, not this time. They had no idea that 40 miles away, in a wood-paneled study, a phone was already ringing. Naomi had been right about one thing. Someone had been watching them for weeks, and that someone had already decided. Then, on an ordinary Thursday in October, Naomi Hartwell was simply gone, her seat empty, Her locker cleared. The office said she'd withdrawn. The one number he had was disconnected. I stood at her locker for an hour, Weston said. I kept thinking she'd walk around the corner and tell me it was a mistake. She never did. And my father never once asked me why I couldn't eat for a month.
She wouldn't just
Where did she go? And why did the one person who swore she'd never leave disappear without a single word? The answer didn't live in that school. It lived in a wood-lined study 40 miles away, the night before Naomi vanished. Sit down, son, Ambrose said, not looking up from his papers. I hear you've made a friend. Her name is Naomi. I know exactly who she is, Ambrose said. Scholarship, no name, no people, no future that touches ours. He finally looked up. You will end it. I'm not ending anything. Ambrose smiled, and that smile was colder than the lake had ever been. You misunderstand me. I'm not asking you to end it. I'm telling you it's already over. You just don't know it yet. Weston didn't understand that sentence. It would take him 16 years, because Ambrose Callahan did not simply disapprove of Naomi Hartwell. He erased her, by phone in a quiet room, without ever raising his voice. Gerald, he said into the receiver that night, to the head of Ashcombe's board, a man whose campaign he'd personally funded. That Hartwell girl, the scholarship student, I want it revoked. Effective immediately. Ambrose, I can't just... There are procedures. Her grades are perfect. There'd be no cause. Then find a cause. A girl like that, no money, no name, alone at a school full of my donors' children, cause writes itself. Theft, perhaps. Cheating. Something that makes her leaving look like mercy. You're asking me to fabricate. I'm asking you to remember who paid for the building you're sitting in. She's been stealing from other students for months. That's the story. Put it in her file, and this conversation never happened. Then, quietly, he answered, consider it done. One phone call, and a 17-year-old girl who'd done nothing but love the wrong boy was branded a thief before she woke up the next morning. They called my mother into that office, Naomi said, her voice going quiet even years later. They spread papers across the desk and called me a thief and a cheat. My mother worked double shifts so I could be there, and she had to sit in that chair and listen to strangers call her daughter a criminal. I watched her hands shake. That's the day I promised myself I'd never beg anyone for anything again. That night, in a dim kitchen, her mother did something Naomi had never seen her do. She called a man she almost never called. Daddy, she said, her voice breaking on the word. They did something to my baby. These people have money, lawyers, the whole school in their pocket. I can't fight them. I don't have what they have. For a moment, the line went quiet. Then an old man's voice came through, calm and low. Tell me his name, Cordell Hartwell said. Daddy, please don't. These are dangerous people. You'll make it worse. Tell me his name, baby girl. But Naomi grabbed the phone. Grandpa, no. Her voice shook but held. I don't want you fighting my battles. I don't want to win because somebody with money stepped in for me. If I ever beat these people, I'm going to beat them on my own. Promise me you'll stay out of it. Then, softly he said, You are so much like your grandmother it frightens me. Promise me, Grandpa. I promise, the old man said. I'll stay out of it until the day you tell me not to. She didn't know it then, but she just delayed a reckoning by 16 years. She had no money, no lawyers, no name. Against a man like Ambrose Callahan, a scholarship girl had nothing. So she was forced out. And the boy she loved was told a very different story. She chose to leave Weston, Ambrose told his son weeks later. Girls like that always do. She realized what she'd never be in a family like ours. Be grateful she was smart enough to go. She wouldn't just leave. Not without telling me. She promised me. promised you. Ambrose almost smiled. Son, that girl told you exactly what you wanted to hear. That's what her kind does. They find a boy with a future and hold on until something better comes along. She used you for a season. Now she's gone. You don't know her. I know what she saw when she looked at you. A name, a house, a way out. And the moment it got hard, she took the easy road. His voice turned to warm poison. One day you'll thank me for the life I'm protecting for you. She wouldn't, Weston said, his voice already breaking. She wouldn't. She did. Let her go. Weston believed him. He was a boy who loved his father, with no reason yet to know that father could lie to his face without blinking. Then came the second theft. You want to be a doctor, Ambrose said one evening, as though the word amused him. No, you'll go to law school, come home, and run for the seat I built for this family. That is what a Callahan does. That's your dream, not mine. Your dreams, Ambrose said flatly, are a luxury this family cannot afford. You'll do as I say, or find out how quickly a boy can lose everything. You already took the one thing I wanted. You took her. Ambrose set down his glass with a slowness worse than any shout. Let me tell you something about that girl, and then we never speak of her again. A name like ours takes 100 years to build, and one bad marriage to end. I will not watch my son throw everything away for a pretty face and a sad story. She was never going to be part of this family. I made certain of that before you ever woke up crying about it. He leaned in. Sentiment is for people who can afford to lose. You cannot. Now go to bed. I made certain of that. Weston didn't understand that sentence. It would take him 16 years, and Weston, who had already lost the girl who saved his life, no longer had the strength to fight. He gave up medicine. He put on his father's collar. I told myself pleasing him was the same as being loved, Weston admitted. It took me 16 years to understand those aren't the same thing. My father never loved me. He owned me, and there's a difference no child ever wants to admit. For 16 years, he lived a life that was never his. And somewhere across the country, the girl he lost was building hers out of the ashes that same man left her in. What happens the day those two walk back into the same room? 16 years later, at a medical conference in Chicago, the ghost walked into the room alive. Weston was there as a minister's son. Naomi was there as Dr. Naomi Hartwell, a featured speaker, a surgeon who treated the patients other hospitals turned away. She'd done exactly what they dreamed of on that football field, without him, and in spite of the man who tried to erase her. Their eyes met across 200 people. 16 years collapsed into a single second. He found her in the hallway afterward. You became a doctor, Weston finally said. I became a doctor, Naomi answered. You disappeared. And there it was, the sentence that had waited 16 years. Is that what he told you? She said softly. That I disappeared? He said you chose to leave, that you didn't want a life in a political family. Weston, her voice was shaking now. I never chose anything. They took my scholarship. They filled my file with lies and called me a thief in front of my mother. I was removed. I fought as hard as a 17-year-old with nothing could fight, and I lost, because your father made sure I would. Weston felt the floor tilt under 16 years of his life. No, he whispered. He told me you left. He looked me in the eye. He lied to you, Naomi said, the same way he lied about me. You were a boy, Weston. You believed your father. I don't blame you for that. I stopped blaming you a long time ago. All these years, Weston's voice cracked completely. All these years I thought you stopped loving me. I thought you looked at my family and decided I wasn't worth it. I never stopped. The tears came now, and she didn't fight them. Not for one single day. I just couldn't win against him. I had no money, no power, no name, and he had everything. Weston, a grown man in a $2,000 suit, put his face in his hands. I should have looked for you, he said, his voice breaking. I should have torn the whole world apart looking for you. 16 years, Naomi. He stole 16 years and I just let him. You were a boy who loved his father. That's not a crime. It feels like one. You're here now, Naomi said, wiping her own face. After everything he did to keep us apart, maybe that has to be enough. How can you be this calm? He destroyed your life. He called your mother into a room and called you a criminal, and you're standing here telling me it's okay. It's not okay. It'll never be okay. But I made a choice a long time ago. I could spend my life bitter about what that man took, or I could take everything he swore I'd never have. A degree. A career. A name people respect. I chose to win instead of hate. She lifted her chin. I'm a surgeon, Weston. The scholarship girl he called a thief saves lives every single day. That's my revenge. I lived the life he tried to steal. He has no idea who he was dealing with, does he? Weston said quietly. No, and for just a second, something flickered behind her eyes she didn't explain. He doesn't have the faintest idea. For the first time in 16 years, Weston knew exactly who had stolen his life. And when Ambrose heard his son was seeing that woman again, he summoned him home. A polished young woman was waiting in the study. Weston, meet Sabine Ashford, Ambrose said smoothly. Her father and I have discussed a future that benefits everyone. She's worthy of this family, worthy of your name. You'll marry her. For the first time in his life, Weston did not lower his eyes. No. I beg your pardon? You've controlled my life since I was 17, Weston said, his voice steady. You took the career I wanted. You took the woman I loved and lied to my face about it for 16 years. But my marriage is mine. I'm marrying Naomi. Ambrose stood slowly. His voice never rose. It went quiet and precise, and that was so much worse. You're still crawling back to that same low-life girl. That filth is not worthy of this family. She was beneath you at 17, and she's beneath you now. I'd rather see this name die than watch you hand it to her. Her name is Naomi. Her name is nothing. She comes from nothing. And the day you put a ring on her finger, that's exactly what you'll have too. I'll strip you of every dollar, every door, every advantage this family ever gave you. See how far love gets you with empty pockets and a wife the whole world looks down on. I don't care about status, Weston said. I care about character, and she has more of it in one hand than you've had in your whole life. Ambrose's face didn't twist. It settled into something final. Then hear me once. Walk out that door with her, and you're no longer my son. No name, no money, no family. You'll have nothing. Then I'll have nothing, Weston said, and I'll finally be free. He walked out of the mansion that raised him and never looked back. He bought a modest house with his own money and married Naomi in a small ceremony under an open sky. No cameras, no Callahan money anywhere in sight. One guest from her side mattered, an elegant elderly black man who walked her down the aisle with tears in his eyes. Her grandfather. You are the finest thing this family has ever made, he whispered. Don't ever let anyone tell you different. I love you, Grandpa. I know, baby. Now go marry that boy. Weston took her hands at the altar. I should have fought for you sooner, he said. I lost 16 years being afraid of a man I should have walked away from at 17. You're here now, Naomi said, smiling through tears. That's all that matters. They opened a clinic together, just like they dreamed. Then the invitation came. Ambrose was launching the biggest campaign of his life, and against his wife's judgment, Weston wanted to go. He's still my father, Weston said. Maybe if we show up, maybe if he sees we're not the enemy, he finally lets it go. Naomi held his face in her hands. She knew better, but she loved him too much to let him walk in alone. Okay, she said, we'll go. Together. Neither of them knew the quiet old man who walked her down the aisle was about to walk into that rally too, and no one, least of all Ambrose Callahan, had any idea who he really was. Now you know them. Now you know what 16 years cost these two. So walk back into that Atlanta rally and feel how different it lands. The stadium was packed, flags everywhere, cameras live. Ambrose Callahan stood on that stage at the height of his power, a man who had spent his whole life building toward this single moment. And then he saw them, his son, holding the hand of the woman he had tried to erase 16 years ago. The microphone lowered, the cheering died, and a United States minister pointed at a black woman in front of the entire country. What is that thing you call a wife doing here? Weston stepped in front of Naomi. Dad, please, we're here to support your campaign. His hand cracked down against the podium. Don't you dare call me Dad. I warned you. The day you married that woman, you stopped being my son. He came down off that stage in front of 1,000 cameras and grabbed his own son by the collar. Choose your political future or that woman. Naomi squeezed her husband's hand and fought not to cry. And Weston Callahan, who had spent 16 years afraid of this man, looked his father in the eye. I choose my wife. Ambrose shoved him backward and pointed at Naomi with a shaking hand. You'll never carry my family name. You'll never belong in my house. And as long as I breathe, you'll never stand beside my son again. Weston stepped forward, calm and unbreakable. Then you'll have to disown me, because I'll never leave my wife. Throw them both out, Ambrose roared at security. But before a single guard moved, a convoy of black SUVs rolled onto the campaign grounds. Every camera swung toward the entrance. Officers stepped out in formation, and from the center vehicle, an older black man rose, slow, unbothered, radiating the kind of power that never has to raise its voice. Ambrose actually scoffed. And who exactly invited you? The old man looked directly into his eyes. The same man who made you minister. For the first time in his life, Ambrose Callahan had no reply, and 1,000 cameras were rolling. Who was this man? How could a stranger claim he made a minister? And why did the most powerful man in that stadium suddenly look like he'd seen a ghost? The old man's name was Cordell Hartwell, and in front of the entire country, he took Ambrose Callahan apart one piece at a time. He walked toward the stage without hurry. Cold power never shouts. You don't recognize me, Cordell said. That's all right. Most powerful men forget the hands that lifted them. It's the first thing power teaches you. I don't know you, Ambrose snapped. You knew me 20 years ago, Cordell said, when you were a nobody state representative with big ambitions and empty pockets. When no serious donor would return your calls, somebody moved money into your campaign. Somebody made phone calls to the right people. Somebody decided you were worth building. The crowd was dead silent now. The reporters had stopped moving. That somebody was me. I built you, Ambrose. Every rung of the ladder you're standing on tonight, I bolted into the wall myself. I just never asked for the credit. That was my mistake. I let you believe you climbed it alone. Ambrose's face had gone gray. That's a lie. Is it? Check your own records. Check the names behind the accounts. You'll find me in every one of them. I made you a minister, and tonight I watched you use everything I gave you to spit on my own family, your family. That thing you called a wife, that girl you called filth, that woman you tried to erase when she was 17 years old, is my granddaughter. Naomi Hartwell is my granddaughter. A gasp rolled through the entire stadium. For 16 years you insulted her. You tried to bury a child who never did a thing to you except love your son, and you did it with the power I handed you. You didn't just humiliate a black woman tonight, Ambrose. You humiliated the granddaughter of the man who made your entire life possible, but he wasn't finished, and everyone could feel it. You think I'm here about tonight. I'm not. I'm here about 16 years ago. He raised his hand, and an aide stepped forward with a folder. When my granddaughter was thrown out of Ashcombe Academy, branded a thief and a cheat, I didn't accept it. I spent years quietly finding out who did it, and tonight, the whole country gets to see what I found. He opened the folder in front of the cameras. Phone records. Yours. The night before Naomi's scholarship was revoked, you called the chairman of that board personally. School records showing her scholarship pulled with no cause. A signed statement from the man you pressured to plant false theft and cheating charges in a 17-year-old's file. He's willing to testify. He's tired of carrying it. The reporters surged forward. You didn't just disapprove of my granddaughter. You framed a child. You deliberately destroyed a teenage girl's future to protect your family name, and you used my power to do it. Ambrose, a man who had never lost control in his life, finally lost it. You can't do this to me. I already have. His voice never rose once. The same influence I used to build you, I'm using tonight to end you. Every donor, every party leader, every ally. By sunrise, Ambrose, you'll be the most powerful man nobody will return a call to, just like you were before I found you. He closed the folder. You spent your whole life afraid the wrong family would touch your legacy. You never imagined that family was more powerful than yours. That's what pride does. It blinds a man right up until the moment it buries him. Could Ambrose survive this? By morning, the whole country had the answer. And the answer was no. Justice arrived the way Cordell Hartwell did everything. Quietly, piece by piece. First went his son's respect. The piece Ambrose never valued until it was gone. Weston didn't scream. He took Naomi's hand and walked out, and the look he gave his father was worse than any shout. It was the look you give a stranger. Then went the public. The clip was everywhere by midnight. His own campaign manager stood in his office the next morning and didn't sit down. It's on every network, Ambrose. Every one. They're running the framing story next to the thing clip, side by side. Then get ahead of it, Ambrose snapped. Put out a statement. Saying what? That you only partly destroyed a 17-year-old girl? The man shook his head. There's no statement for this. There's no spin. You built a career on controlling the story. You don't control this one. Then went the campaign. 2 days later, that same man came back with a single sheet of paper. The party's asking for your withdrawal, he said. They're not asking, actually. Sign it, or they'll say it for you. Ambrose stared at the seat he'd spent his entire life reaching for, slipping through his fingers on one page. 20 years I gave them, he said. And they'll give you 30 seconds of a goodbye speech. The manager said, sign it. Then went the allies. Just as Cordell promised, the phone calls went out. Donors who had lined up behind Ambrose for years stopped returning his calls in a single afternoon. One of them, an old friend of 30 years, finally picked up just long enough to say 6 words. I can't be seen with you, the man said, and hung up. Party leaders who had praised him stopped saying his name. The network Cordell had quietly built around him 20 years ago, Cordell dismantled in a matter of days. Then went his reputation, the thing he loved more than his own son. The Ashcombe records became public, and a reporter caught him on his own front steps. Minister, did you or did you not have a 17-year-old scholarship student framed for theft? No comment. The board chairman says otherwise. He says you called him personally. He says you told him to make her disappear. Ambrose said nothing, and his silence was printed on every front page in America the next morning, in language plain enough that nobody had to guess. He had framed a child. Everyone knew it now, and then, last of all, went his family. You lied to me for 16 years. Weston told him. the one time they spoke afterward. You didn't take my career. You didn't take Naomi. You took both. And you looked me in the eye every single day and let me believe she left me. I did it for you, Ambrose said. Everything I did for... Don't. Weston's voice was quiet and final. Don't you dare call it love. I don't have a father. I stopped having one the night you decided you owned me instead of loved me. He walked out. He didn't slam the door. He just closed it, softly, the way you close a door on a room you're never entering again. Even his wife, Eleanor, who had endured him for decades, finally left. Where are you going? Ambrose asked her at the door. Anywhere you're not. After all these years, Eleanor, you'd leave now? I stayed for the name Ambrose, she said, not even turning around. There's no name left to stay for. His prejudice had been the architect of all of it. The very thing he thought protected his legacy was the thing that detonated it. And he had no one to blame but himself. Months later, a house on a hill sits very quiet. Ambrose Callahan sits alone in a room that echoes. No campaign, no allies, no wife, no son, just an old man and the silence he built with his own hands, holding a single photograph, his son at 17, soaking wet on the shore of a lake, alive because a girl he despised refused to let him die. I could have had all of it, Ambrose said to the empty room.
I traded
the
it for a
boy,
name nobody
their
says
children,
anymore.
a family. I traded it for a name nobody says anymore. The house did not answer him. It never will again. Across town, another house is loud in all the right ways. Weston and Naomi sit on their back porch, the clinic they built together running strong. Cordell sits between them, older now, but smiling. You know what I'm proudest of? The old man said. It was never the empires I built. It was watching the two of you build something they couldn't take. You could have stepped in years ago, Grandpa, Naomi said. You could have ended him when I was 17. Why did you wait? Because you asked me to. You told me you wanted to win on your own. And you did, baby. You became everything he swore you'd never be, with your own two hands. All I did at the end was let the world see the truth. You're the one who lived it. I still don't know how you kept that promise for 16 years. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. Every year, watching that man rise on money I gave him, knowing what he did to you. But a promise is a promise. He smiled. The look on his face was worth every one of those years. You're a patient man, Cordell, Weston said softly. No, son, I'm a careful one. Patient men wait. Careful men prepare. Naomi rested her head on her husband's shoulder. People think the hardest part of being hated is hearing the insults, she said softly. It's not. The hardest part is watching the person you love get punished just for loving you. She laced her fingers through his. But we made it. He tried to erase me when I was 17, and here I still am. Here you still are, Weston said, kissing the top of her head. You saved my life at that lake. Then you spent 16 years teaching me how to actually live it. I'd do it again, Naomi whispered. All of it. Every year we lost. If it brought us here. Prejudice stole years from them. A dream, a scholarship, 16 birthdays they'll never get back. But it could not steal the life they built anyway. And somewhere on a hill, a powerful man sits alone with a photograph, understanding too late, the people you look down on may be the very ones holding up your whole world. He just found out the hardest way there is. If this story moved you, take a moment to subscribe and turn on the bell so you never miss what we post each week. Leave a comment and tell us, would you have had the courage to choose love the way Weston did, even if it cost you everything? Give this video a like and share it with someone who needs to be reminded that the people the world looks down on are often the ones holding it up. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. Take Take care of yourself, and we'll see you in the next one.